No one knew the TikTok live would turn into evidence of a killing. At first, it looked like every other late-night stream, a ring light glowing too bright, a messy bedroom behind it, and a woman adjusting her hair while scrolling through comments. Lena had gone live hundreds of times before, but nothing about her expression that night hinted at what was about to unfold. If anything, she looked distracted, as though her mind was split between the camera and someone standing just out of frame. The first 30 seconds were filled with harmless chat, viewers asking if she was okay, why she looked tired, why her smile felt forced. She answered none of them. She kept glancing sideways, the way someone does when they can feel tension humming in the walls of a room. A few viewers noticed and typed things like, "Is someone there?" or "You look scared." But the algorithm kept pushing the live to more people, unaware it was promoting a disaster. Then, without warning, a loud crash sounded from somewhere behind the camera. Lena flinched hard enough that her phone shook in her hand. She tried to cover it with a laugh, but the sound was thin, nervous. More comments poured in, asking what had fallen. She looked toward the doorway again, longer this time, eyes glassy and alert, like she was anticipating something she hoped wouldn't happen. The screen jittered as she set the phone down, propping it against a makeup bag. The angle now caught the bedroom at a slight tilt. The lights, the unmade bed, the cracked window, it all looked normal, except for the tension radiating off her shoulders. She stepped out of frame, her voice barely audible as she said, "Just a sec, guys, don't go anywhere." There was a small tremble there, and thousands noticed. Viewers began screen recording, expecting some relationship drama or a surprise guest. None were prepared for what followed. A man's voice erupted from off-screen, sharp, low, and furious. Even though the words weren't fully clear, the tone cut straight through the cheap microphone, chilling everyone listening. Lena reappeared briefly, half blocking the doorway as if trying to prevent someone from entering. "Not right now," she whispered, but the voice thundered again, louder, closer. The phone captured only part of her face as she leaned toward it, whispering, "Guys, I'm ending the live." But she didn't get to finish. A hand shoved her hard from behind. The camera toppled. The image spun wildly before landing on its side, capturing only a slanted view of the carpet and the bottom edge of the bed. But the audio continued, becoming the most horrifying part. Heavy footsteps. A choked sob. Something, maybe the ring light, clattering to the floor. And then Lena's voice, cracking with desperation, begging someone to stop. Hundreds of viewers typed frantic comments. "Call police. Is this real? Where is she?" But the stream didn't stop. It kept broadcasting the muffled sounds of a struggle, the thud of something hitting the floor, and a breathless, trembling series of gasps. The man said something, low, broken, filled with rage, but the words were impossible to fully make out. The audience caught only fragments, like, "You ruined me," and "Why would you do that?" One final scream shattered the feed. Then came silence. The camera, still sideways, showed nothing except the edge of a shoe and a smear of something dark near the carpet fibers. Viewers kept typing, begging for a response, praying the whole thing was some kind of twisted prank. But after 10 seconds of stillness, the live suddenly cut out. By then, more than 30,000 people had witnessed the last moments of the broadcast. It took less than 5 minutes for screenshots, clips, and frantic messages to explode across social media. People were tagging police, giving partial addresses, describing what they thought they heard. Within minutes, emergency services were overwhelmed with calls reporting a possible domestic attack streamed in real time. And as the flashing lights of police vehicles began racing through the city toward an unknown destination, one detail became chillingly clear. This nightmare wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of a story that started months before tonight, one rooted in secrets, humiliation, and a marriage quietly cracking beneath its own weight. A story that now leads us back to where it truly began. The viral livestream had already begun circulating through police channels when the narrative shifts back 6 months earlier. Before the screaming, before the panic, before the world watched a marriage shatter in real time. Back then, Horace and Lena looked like a couple built on harmless jokes, matching hoodies, and the kind of online chemistry that viewers adored. Their videos were light, playful, filled with shared laughter that seemed almost scripted in its perfection. For a long time, no one imagined anything darker existed beneath that soft glow of manufactured happiness. Lena had always been the louder one. She loved the camera, loved her growing follower base, and loved the way people said she looked like someone who was born for the screen. Horace, in contrast, stayed in the background. He was quiet, soft-spoken, someone who only appeared in frames when Lena dragged him in with a grin. He often laughed at himself awkwardly, giving the impression that he never fully knew how to exist in the spotlight she lived in. Their early marriage wasn't perfect, but it worked. Horace adored Lena's energy. She adored his calm. Their differences blended into something functional, at least on the surface. But even then, thin cracks were forming in the places no one could see. Cracks shaped like insecurity, pride, and a secret Horace believed no one, absolutely no one, could ever know. They had moved into a small apartment just outside the city. It wasn't glamorous, but Lena managed to make it look nicer on camera by using fairy lights and clever angles. Off camera, the space felt colder. The rooms carried echoes of unfinished conversations, half-swallowed resentments, and the pressure of being public figures without ever meaning to be. Lena never intended to become famous. The algorithm chose her. One viral dance clip became 2, then 10, then a steady stream of followers who begged for daily updates. And with each spike in her popularity, Horace's discomfort grew. He wasn't jealous, at least not at first. He simply didn't know how to live with thousands of strangers entering their life through a screen. Still, he tried to be supportive. He filmed her skits, held the ring light when she needed perfect lighting, and pretended her teasing videos about their relationship were funny. Sometimes they were. Sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they cut too close. But the laughter disguised the imbalance forming between them. There were nights when Lena would sit editing for hours, ignoring Horace entirely. Other nights he'd wait for her to come to bed, only to find her chatting with fans instead. When he confronted her gently, she'd brush him off with a kiss and say, "Baby, this is our future. You should be proud." He wanted to be. Truly. But pride is a fragile thing when bruised repeatedly. One evening, during a casual dinner, Horace caught a glimpse of a comment on Lena's phone. "Why does your husband always look scared of you?" She laughed at it. Horace didn't. Something about that comment felt too real, too precise, too close to the truth he didn't want to examine. Yet what held them together was their shared history, years of dating, family approval, and the comfort of believing they knew each other entirely. But they didn't. Horace was hiding a part of himself he feared would destroy them. And Lena was growing into a version of herself he didn't fully understand. Their marriage became a dance of smiles in public and silences in private. A performance of closeness masking the growing distance between them. The lies weren't dramatic or intentional, they were small, quiet omissions. Horace pretending he didn't mind the spotlight. Lena pretending she didn't notice his discomfort. Two people tiptoeing around realities neither wanted to face. And yet, if anyone had looked closely enough, they would have seen the storm forming. They would have seen how easily playful jokes could turn into weapons. How fragile pride could twist into obsession. How a secret, one Lena hadn't yet spoken, sat like a live wire between them. That secret, still unspoken in this moment of their marriage, is what would soon unravel everything. Horace had always believed that every person carried one truth too fragile to expose, a truth so deeply buried it became a part of their bones. For him, that truth had roots tracing back years before he ever met Lena, back to a version of himself he tried desperately to erase. The cracks in their marriage, still subtle to the outside world, made that buried truth tremble closer to the surface. After Lena's rise in social media, Horace began to feel the walls around his secret tightening. Her spotlight shined too brightly, too unpredictably, illuminating parts of their life he wished stayed hidden. In Chapter 2, he could still tell himself she didn't mean harm. But here, the pressure shifts. Silence transforms into dread. Avoidance becomes fear. It began on a quiet evening. Lena had gone live again, laughing with viewers, answering flirtatious comments playfully, and teasing Horace in ways that once felt harmless. He sat in the next room, pretending to scroll through his phone, but every giggle, every suggestive joke muttered by viewers, cut a little deeper. He could feel the weight pressing against the secret he fought so hard to keep contained. His secret wasn't dangerous, cruel, or illegal. It was simply intimate, something personal and vulnerable, a private preference he had never shared with anyone except Lena. The kind of detail that could trigger judgment, mockery, or whispers. Something that made him feel exposed in a way he couldn't articulate. And the more the world watched Lena, the more terrified he became that she might slip, accidentally or intentionally. He trusted her. But not completely. Not anymore. The first time he told her about it, they had been newly married, lying on their bed in the half-dark. His voice shook when he confessed, expecting disgust. Instead, she laughed softly and kissed his forehead, saying, "Baby, everyone has something." It felt safe then. Comforting. But comfort can rot when trust thins. As the months passed, Lena began telling her audience funny marriage stories, gliding dangerously close to referencing his fetish without naming it. She never crossed the line. Yet, but she floated near it, the way someone who doesn't realize they're dealing with a live wire might. One specific night stayed etched in his memory. Lena had been recording a draft for a storytime video when she burst into laughter halfway through the script. "Oh my God, if people knew what you're into," she said jokingly, nudging him. He forced a smile, but inside, something cracked. That was the moment he realized she didn't understand the weight of what she held. To her, it was an inside joke. To him, it was the one thing the world could never be allowed to see. Later that night, while she slept soundly, he stared at the ceiling replaying her words. The room felt smaller. His chest felt tight. He imagined her casually mentioning it during a live, or a careless hint slipping into a trending video. The thought alone made him nauseous. He wasn't afraid of ridicule, he was afraid of exposure. Afraid of becoming a meme. Afraid of losing dignity, respect, identity. It wasn't the fetish itself that haunted him, it was what revealing it could turn him into. His secret became a shadow that followed him everywhere. At work. In public. Even in the kitchen while making tea. Every time Lena picked up her phone, a jolt of fear sparked through him. Her social media had become a ticking clock, and he felt powerless to stop it. And yet he said nothing. For now. But the fear growing inside him would soon collide with a choice Lena made. One that would send everything spiraling. The night everything shifted began like any other. Quiet, warm, and deceptively ordinary. Horace was sitting at the dining table, pretending to read while Lena prepared for another casual girls' hangout livestream. The faint hum of her ring light flickered through the hallway, casting long shadows across the apartment. To anyone else, the glow would have felt harmless. But for Horace, it had become a warning signal, a reminder that her world was expanding while his was shrinking. He heard her laughter from the bedroom, light, carefree, the kind that carried no sense of danger. But underneath it, Horace felt the familiar tightening in his chest. The fear. The vulnerability. The sense that at any moment, the secret he had buried so deeply could be dangled in front of thousands of strangers, dressed up as a harmless joke. Lena wasn't cruel, she was careless. That was the problem. Her live stream began with the usual chaos, bright filters, squealing friends, and a flood of comments. Horace hovered near the doorway, out of sight but close enough to listen. He wanted to trust her. He wanted to believe she knew where the line was. But the laughter echoing through the apartment tonight sounded different, looser, bolder, maybe even a little reckless. He leaned against the wall, heart thudding. "And you won't believe what my husband is into," Lena said suddenly, giggling into the camera. The room exploded with screams from her friends. Commenters typed at lightning speed. Emojis flew across the screen. The energy was electric. And Horace felt his stomach twist violently. She hadn't said it. She hadn't exposed him. But the dis was enough. Lena continued, raising her eyebrows dramatically as she held the tension just long enough for everyone watching to lean in. No. I'm not saying it, she laughed, waving her hands. But let's just say, he's into some interesting stuff. Her friends shrieked harder. One of them said, "Girl, if you don't spill right now." Another added, "Horace is gonna kill you." They didn't know how close those words were to prophecy. Horace stepped back from the doorway, suddenly unable to breathe. His mind spun with worst-case scenarios. Even without details, even without the full reveal, he knew what this meant. Rumors spread like wildfire online. People loved mystery. They loved guessing games. They loved tearing apart private lives for fun. And Lena had given them a spark. His heart pounded. The walls felt too close. He walked into the kitchen and gripped the edge of the counter so hard his knuckles whitened. His breaths came fast, shallow, uneven. He wasn't angry, not yet. He was humiliated, betrayed, exposed without being exposed. The line had been crossed. When the live stream ended an hour later, Lena bounced into the kitchen, still laughing, still glowing from the rush of attention. Baby, you should have seen the comments. They were dying. It was hilarious. Horace stared at her, silent. Lena frowned. Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. I didn't say anything. I kept it vague. It was just fun. Fun. The word hung in the air like a blade. Do you even understand what you did? Horace finally asked, his voice low and trembling. Do you have any idea what people will assume now? What they'll say about me? Lena rolled her eyes, a small gesture, but a fatal one. People joke, Horace. It's not that serious. You always overthink everything. He swallowed hard. Every part of him wanted to scream, but all he could manage was, don't ever do that again. She didn't look frightened or remorseful. She looked irritated. Relax. You're taking this way too personally. But he was personal. His entire identity felt like it was dangling by a thread she held casually between her fingers. That night, Horace didn't sleep. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying her words again and again. His fear no longer felt irrational. It felt justified. Because now others knew there was something to uncover. And curiosity online was vicious. Lena had crossed the line, carelessly, thoughtlessly, and without understanding the depth of the wound she'd opened. And as morning approached, rumors from her live stream began spreading faster than either of them realized. By morning, Horace's worst fear had already begun to take shape. The live stream from the previous night, the one he'd begged Lena not to turn into a joke, had clipped itself into dozens of short videos. Strangers screen-recorded the moment she hinted about his interesting preferences. Others added dramatic music and bold text. Lena exposes her husband? The comments multiplied like a swarm. At first, it was harmless curiosity. People guessed silly things. Foot massages, roleplay, odd snacks he liked. But curiosity on the internet had a way of twisting into cruelty. By noon, threads began forming beneath the viral clip. Some speculated, some mocked, and some labeled him with words he never imagined being associated with. A few anonymous accounts even claimed they knew the truth, inventing outrageous stories for attention. Horace scrolled through the videos with a sick, sinking feeling. Each view, each comment, each laugh chipped away at whatever dignity he had left. It didn't matter that no one knew the real secret. What mattered was that people believed they had permission to make assumptions about his private life. And in the digital world, assumptions became facts faster than truth ever could. He sat on the edge of the bed, gripping his phone so tightly his fingers ached. Lena walked in, eating breakfast as if nothing unusual was happening. Did you see? We're trending again, she said cheerfully. That live blew up more than I expected. He didn't respond. She sat beside him and peeked at his screen, only now noticing the cruel edits. Okay, yeah, some people took it too far. But it'll die down. Online stuff always does. Her voice was light, dismissive, as though the comments were floating dust she could just swipe away. It won't, Horace whispered. Not this time. Lena sighed. You're overreacting again. They're guessing random stuff. None of it's true. That doesn't matter, he said, turning toward her with hollow eyes. They're talking about me. Laughing at me. You gave them the reason. The tension between them thickened. Lena opened her mouth to argue but closed it again. For the first time, she seemed unsure. I didn't think it would blow up like this, she said quietly. I thought it was harmless. Nothing online is harmless, Horace replied. As the day progressed, more people joined the chatter. Reaction TikTokers stitched the clip, debating what kind of fetish Lena could be hinting at. Some laughed. Some shamed. Some speculated with confidence, speaking as if they were experts on their marriage. Horace watched helplessly as he became a character in a narrative he didn't control. By evening, even Lena's family group chat buzzed with messages. Her cousin sent a screenshot with a laughing emoji. Her teenage nephew asked if the rumors were true. Lena felt heat rise to her face, part embarrassment, part guilt. She hadn't expected it to spill into real life. Meanwhile, Horace felt the paranoia settle into his bones. Every notification on his phone felt like a punch. Every buzz made him flinch. He began imagining strangers whispering about him at work. He envisioned coworkers snickering behind his back, claiming they'd seen things online. The humiliation grew heavier by the hour. Lena tried to soothe him, placing her hand on his shoulder. "It'll fade," she insisted. "Give it a day or two." He didn't shake her off, but he didn't believe her either. "You don't understand," he murmured. "This isn't a joke to me. This is my privacy. My dignity." Silence settled between them. A silence thick with blame, fear, and cracks widening faster than either could repair. By nightfall, the rumors had grown into a storm, louder, crueler, and impossible to control. And though Lena didn't realize it yet, one person outside their marriage was paying close attention to the chaos. The rumors didn't fade, they evolved. By the time Clara stepped into the house that evening, the weight of judgment clung to her like a second skin. She closed the door quietly, leaning her back against it as if the wood itself could hold her up. Her mind replayed the whispers from the market, the suspicious looks, the questions wrapped in fake politeness. Every version of the story painted her differently, but all of them dug into her nerves like thorns. Daniel stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with focused precision. He glanced at her, smile tight, eyes calculating. "Long day?" he asked, but something in his voice made her uneasy. The casual question felt staged, like he was testing her reaction. "You could say that," Clara murmured, placing her bag on the counter. She avoided his gaze, but she felt him watching her closely, as if searching for cracks. Daniel wiped his hands on a towel and leaned against the counter. "You know," he began slowly, "people talk. They notice things." His tone was too soft, too controlled. A tone he used when he wanted something. Clara's stomach tightened. "What exactly are they saying?" "That you've been emotional lately." He let the word hang between them, heavy with implication. "That something might be off at home." Clara's breath caught. He wasn't repeating the rumors, he was using them. "Daniel," she said carefully, "people always embellish. You know how this town is." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Of course. But you also know how situations can be interpreted, especially if someone wanted to." His eyes locked onto hers, sharp and cold. There was the shift. Daniel wasn't concerned about the truth. He was reminding her how fragile her standing was, and how quickly he could break it. "You're imagining things," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture tender in appearance but heavy with unspoken threat. "Clara, I just want what's best for our family. For Lena. And sometimes that means you need to be very careful. People don't forgive easily." The message was clear. He could twist the narrative anytime he wanted. And with the town already buzzing with rumors, he knew she'd have little defense. Clara swallowed hard. "I've done nothing wrong." Daniel smiled, a slow, unsettling curve of his lips. "Good. Then you have nothing to worry about." He turned back to the cutting board as if the conversation had never happened. But Clara felt the shift deep in her bones. Love, if it ever existed, had become a currency, and Daniel now controlled every coin. Later that night, Lena found her mother sitting alone in the dimly lit living room, staring at nothing. "Mom?" she asked gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay?" Clara forced a smile. "Just tired." But Lena didn't buy it. Her eyes narrowed with concern. "Did Dad say something?" Clara hesitated. Protecting Lena had always come first. But keeping the truth might be protecting Daniel instead. "No," she finally said, though the lie tasted bitter. Just stress. Lena sat beside her, silent but supportive. Clara wished she could tell her everything. The fear, the pressure, the way Daniel had weaponized the town's gossip. Yet she stayed quiet, knowing that speaking out could make things worse. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, a reminder that storms often begin quietly. Clara sensed one forming, one that Daniel was already preparing to control. And she couldn't shake the feeling that someone else in town was listening closely, waiting for their chance to twist the situation even further. Because when whispers take root, leverage grows, and someone was about to use it. The storm outside had barely quieted when another one began brewing online. Clara woke early the next morning, still carrying the weight of Daniel's thinly veiled threats. Her head throbbed, her mind restless. She moved through the house silently, careful not to wake anyone, hoping a warm cup of tea might steady her nerves. But peace wasn't waiting in the kitchen. Her phone buzzed non-stop on the counter, vibrating against the wood like something alive. She frowned and reached for it. Notifications filled the screen, messages, missed calls, Instagram tags, and something even more alarming, dozens of TikTok alerts. Her heart skipped. With a shaking thumb, she opened the app. And there it was. TikTok video of her. Of her and Daniel. Except it wasn't what it seemed, not a sweet family moment or a harmless clip. Someone had filmed them through the dining room window the night before, capturing the exact moment Daniel leaned in, brushing her hair behind her ear, whispering words that sounded tender but carried sharp edges. In the dim kitchen light, the angle made it appear intimate, almost seductive. Anyone watching would assume something entirely different from the truth. Worse, the caption read, "Not everything in this perfect family is what it seems." Within hours, the video had already gone viral. Clara felt her knees weaken. She gripped the counter to steady herself. Her ears rang as she scrolled through the comments. Speculations, jokes, accusations. People were dissecting her marriage, her character, her expression in the video. Who recorded this? But behind her, footsteps echoed. Lena entered the kitchen, hair messy, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Mom, why are you up so early?" But then she saw the phone in Clara's hand. She froze. "What's that?" Clara handed her the phone silently. Lena watched in growing horror. This is from last night," she whispered. "Mom, who would?" "Someone who wanted to stir things," Clara murmured, voice trembling. "Someone who wanted leverage." Daniel entered the kitchen next, adjusting his watch, already dressed for work. He noticed their expressions instantly. "What's going on?" Clara turned the screen toward him. For a split second, something flickered across Daniel's face. Shock? Anger? Satisfaction? It disappeared before she could decode it. "So people recorded us," he said, shrugging. "That's the world we live in." "That's all you have to say?" Clara snapped. "Our privacy was violated. People think." She broke off, unable to complete the sentence. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Clara, calm down. If you get emotional now, it'll only look worse." The words hit harder than a slap. She stared at him, stunned. "You think this is about appearances?" "It always is," he said quietly. Lena bristled. "Dad, this isn't her fault." Daniel didn't even acknowledge the comment. He gently took Clara's phone, scanned the comments with a calculating gaze, then sighed. "If you hadn't been so tense last night, it wouldn't look suspicious." The implication landed like a blow. He was using the video against her too. Clara stepped back, a mix of fear and rage rising inside her. "You're twisting this." "I'm being realistic," Daniel replied. "People will believe what they want. We just need to present a united, stable front." There it was again. The pressure, the manipulation, the gentle weaponizing of perception. He left a moment later, briefcase in hand, as if nothing had happened. Lena turned to her mother, face pale. "Someone did this on purpose. Someone wants to make you look guilty." Clara nodded, her pulse racing. "And the worst part, the video is taken from an angle only someone close would know. Someone who's been watching." Lena shivered. As the morning sunlight crept through the window, Clara realized the situation had moved far beyond rumors. Someone had crossed a line, and they weren't done yet. Because once a story goes viral, someone always wants the next chapter. And whoever posted that TikTok was already preparing it. Horace didn't sleep that night. The TikTok had lit a fuse he could no longer ignore. By morning, the apartment felt smaller, every wall pressing against him, every shadow sharp and accusing. He paced the living room, phone clutched tightly, scrolling through endless comments, shares, and speculation. His mind replayed every joke, every tease, every moment Lena had laughed about his secret, twisting them into daggers aimed directly at him. When Lena finally appeared, cheerful and oblivious, Horace's chest tightened. Her hair glimmered under the morning light streaming through the blinds, and her smile seemed untouched by the storm she had created. She waved a hand at him. "Morning. Look at this. Our video went viral overnight. People love it." Horace forced a calm tone, though the words felt brittle. "Lena, we need to talk. Now." She tilted her head, sensing the seriousness in his voice. "Okay, what's wrong?" He motioned toward the phone on the counter, still buzzing with notifications. "This. You know what this is doing to me. To us." His voice wavered between pleading and fury. "People are mocking me, assuming things, making me into a joke. And you posted it knowing what it would do." Lena stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Horace, I didn't post anything myself. I didn't name names or details. I was just trying to lighten the mood, joke with my followers. It wasn't supposed to be serious." "Not supposed to be serious?" His hand shook. "Lena, you don't get it. None of this is a joke. My entire identity is on the line. Everything I've hidden, everything I've worked to keep private, it's out there now." Lena's expression shifted from defensiveness to concern. "Horace, I didn't realize, I really didn't think it would spread like this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." Horace stared at her, searching for sincerity, searching for remorse, searching for the part of the woman he loved that had once understood him. Her voice, soft and trembling, seemed almost pitiful. "Is that it?" he asked bitterly. "Your apology?" She reached for his hand. "No, Horace. Please, I'm sorry. I should have been more careful. I never wanted this to happen. I thought I was protecting us, sharing small moments with the world. I see now that it hurt you, that it humiliated you. I never wanted that." For a moment, he felt a flicker of something, hope, perhaps, or relief, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The damage wasn't just in the video. It was in the perception, in the whispers, in the growing panic he couldn't control. The apology was too late, too small, inadequate against the avalanche she had triggered. "I can't just move past this," Horace whispered, voice low, trembling with barely restrained anger. "You don't understand the consequences. This isn't a simple mistake. People are watching, laughing, judging. And it's all because of you." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "I'll take it down. I'll fix it. Anything you want, I'll do. Just don't hate me." But he wasn't sure he could. His trust was fractured. His shame was alive and burning. And deep inside, a storm was forming that nothing could stop. They stood in silence for several long moments, the tension thick as a wall between them. Horace's fists clenched. Lena's hands trembled. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the private disaster unfolding inside this small apartment. Horace finally whispered, almost to himself, I can't let this happen again." Lena's sobs filled the room. She didn't understand what he meant, not yet. Because the last apology had been said. And the moment to stop what was coming next had already passed. By nightfall, the tension escalates further, as Horace decides to confront Lena where it all began, the TikTok livestream. The next chapter captures the moment the situation spirals beyond repair. The tension in the apartment was suffocating. Horace could feel it in his chest, in the tightness behind his eyes, in the tremor in his hands. Every vibration of his phone, every notification, sent a pulse of anxiety through him. He paced the living room like a predator circling prey, though the prey was someone he had once loved. His thoughts were a chaotic storm, rage, fear, shame, humiliation, blending until they became indistinguishable. Lena, oblivious to the full extent of his turmoil, had decided to go live again. She thought she could explain, control the narrative, and charm her viewers into understanding. She set up the ring light in the bedroom, adjusted the camera, and smiled at the lens. To her, it was another day, another live. To Horace, it was a countdown ticking toward catastrophe. He leaned against the doorway, silent, his presence unnoticed at first. The camera caught only a glimpse of him, a shadow at the edge of the frame. The live chat exploded within seconds, viewers greeting Lena, commenting on her energy, teasing her for keeping secrets. Horace didn't care about the chat. He didn't care about the views. He cared only about the humiliation building beneath the fluorescent glow of the ring light. Lena began speaking, her voice light, almost playful, but with a trace of defensiveness. "Hey guys. So, last night was a little dramatic, huh?" She laughed. "I just wanted to clear the air, because you know me. I never exaggerate much." Horace's fists clenched. Each word felt like a challenge aimed directly at him, a provocation he could no longer ignore. He stepped closer, heart pounding so loudly it seemed to echo in the room. His shadow fell across the bed, looming over the camera like a storm about to break. The chat erupted with excitement at his appearance. "Who's that? Is that her husband? Looks intense." But Horace didn't see the comments. He saw only Lena, smiling, unaware that her joke, her tease, had pushed him to a breaking point. "Lena," he said finally, his voice low, sharp and trembling. "Stop. Just stop." She froze, the playful energy draining from her face. "Horace? What are you?" But he wasn't done. His words came faster now, heated, desperate. "You think this is harmless? You think the world doesn't see what you're doing? You're making me into a joke. Into a spectacle. Do you understand that?" Lena took a step back, panic rising. "I didn't mean, Horace, please." The chat scrolled rapidly, unaware that it was witnessing a private war. Horace advanced, every step calculated, controlled by fear, rage, and humiliation. His shadow fell across the lens, cutting her off from her audience. The ring light flickered slightly, catching in his eyes, dark, stormy, terrifying. "People are watching, Lena. People are seeing everything," he hissed. "And you've done this. You've crossed the line. I can't let this happen again." Her lips quivered. She opened her mouth to plead, but he was already shaking with the anticipation of the moment he had imagined 1,000 times. The countdown had begun, the silent seconds between explanation and action, between fear and collapse. Outside the camera frame, everything felt magnified. Every heartbeat, every whisper, every shadow in the room became a drumbeat to a tragedy that no one could stop. The audience, thousands strong, typed furiously, unaware that the tension they felt on screen was real, that the drama was no longer performance, and that the storm was about to hit. And as the seconds ticked toward the inevitable, Horace's mind narrowed to a single horrifying focus. He could not allow himself to be humiliated any longer. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the ring light and the distant thrum of traffic outside. Horace's heart pounded so loudly he could hear it in his ears. Every muscle in his body was taut, ready, coiled with the tension of months of humiliation, secrecy, and fear. The TikTok live had started as usual, thousands of viewers already tuned in, waiting for Lena's signature blend of charm and gossip. She was in front of the camera, glowing, laughing nervously as she fumbled with her hair and read comments out loud. Horace stayed in the shadows at the doorway, his gaze fixed on her, his mind calculating every possible outcome, every possible consequence. The secret he had buried, the one she had teased, the one the internet now suspected, everything converged in this moment. "You guys are crazy," Lena said, smiling at the camera. "I can't believe all the messages from last night. You're wild." Horace's chest tightened. His eyes narrowed as the words reached him. Every laugh, every comment, every emoji felt like a strike against him. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't playful teasing anymore. This was exposure, and exposure had always terrified him. He stepped closer, each footfall deliberate. The ring light cast a harsh glow across his features, shadowed eyes, tight jaw, trembling hands. The viewers, unaware of the storm in the room, typed furiously in the chat, "What's he doing? Husband looks serious. Something's happening." Lena noticed him at the edge of the frame and froze. Her smile faltered. "Horace? What are you?" "I told you to stop," he said, voice low, trembling, edged with something darker. "I told you not to make me a joke. Not to tease. Not to humiliate me." The viewers noticed the change immediately. The chat scrolled faster, some typing warnings, some begging her to stop, some laughing nervously at the tension. Horace didn't see the screen. He saw only her, only the person who had been both his love and his tormentor, glowing in a light that now felt blinding. Lena backed toward the bed, confusion and fear etched into her face. "Horace, please, calm down." But it was too late. The dam inside him broke. Years of buried shame, months of teasing, the viral clip, the comments, the whispers, they all coalesced into one devastating moment. He moved faster than she could react. The camera, still recording, captured everything. The flash of his hand, the stumble, her wide eyes, the sudden struggle. The viewers could hear the thud of bodies colliding, a scream breaking free before it was cut short. "Stop. Horace, please." It was gone. For 3 long, excruciating seconds, silence dominated the livestream. Only the hum of the ring light, the faint shuffle of his breathing, and the distant street noises remained. The chat erupted, confusion flooding the screen. "What's happening? Someone call 911. This isn't real." The camera tilted, capturing the floor, a smear of dark liquid, a shoe in the corner, and the edge of the bed. The viewers screamed virtually through the chat, not understanding the reality of what they were seeing. Some froze their screens, replaying the moment in disbelief. Others tried to report it, their fingers shaking over the buttons. Horace stood over her, chest heaving, the weight of what he had done pressing into him with a shocking, almost numbing force. His eyes caught the camera lens. It reflected his face, wild, broken, terrifying, and then he realized, the world had just witnessed what no one was supposed to see. The live stream didn't end immediately. It continued to record the aftermath. The stillness, the ringing notifications, the chaos in the chat, the horror reflected in thousands of faces through small screens across the city, across the country. Outside, the wind rattled the window. Inside, Horace felt the cold, sharp truth pressing into his chest. There was no going back. Every viewer, every recording, every screenshot was a witness. Every one of them now carried part of this moment. The consequences would not wait. They would arrive, unstoppable. And as the notifications continued to surge, Horace realized something far more terrifying than the act itself. The world had already judged him. The moment Horace's live stream went viral, the world outside his apartment became both jury and executioner. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, uploading clips, dissecting the moment frame by frame. Every smartphone user had become a witness, every social media feed a courtroom. Justice had no walls. It existed online, amplified by hashtags, likes, and shares. Police received hundreds of frantic calls within minutes of the live stream ending. Officers arrived at the scene to find chaos, the room silent, the ring light flickering, and Horace standing frozen over Lena's body. His hands trembled, eyes vacant, as though the enormity of what he had done had yet to fully register. Detectives took control quickly, cordoning off the apartment while bystanders and journalists tried to peer over barriers. News helicopters hovered, capturing grainy footage of flashing lights, the yellow tape, and a single figure framed against the window. The digital footprint of the crime had already spread worldwide, forcing law enforcement into an unusual dilemma, managing both the physical investigation and the online hysteria simultaneously. Horace was handcuffed and led to the patrol car. The murmurs of neighbors mixed with the incessant clicking of cameras and smartphones. His mind felt numb, detached. Every online comment he had seen before, the ridicule, the teasing, the speculation, now merged with the reality of being a criminal exposed. It wasn't just humiliation anymore, it was accountability, public and unrelenting. News anchors recited the details over live broadcasts, emphasizing that the incident had unfolded on TikTok, witnessed by thousands. Clips were embedded across news sites, shared in private messages, and saved on devices around the globe. Social media exploded with opinions. Some called for sympathy, others for vengeance. People debated the morality of posting or watching, yet none could ignore the footage they had already seen. In the digital age, every reaction became evidence. Every screenshot, every recorded livestream, every comment formed part of an unspoken trial. Prosecutors began collecting clips, timestamps, and metadata as if it were tangible proof in a physical courtroom. Even the algorithms of social media were being subpoenaed. Digital archives had become an extension of law enforcement. Horace sat in an interrogation room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Detectives asked him to recount the events, his voice shaky, his hands trembling. He tried to explain months of humiliation, teasing, and exposure, but words felt insufficient. Every explanation seemed dwarfed by the visual proof captured live for the world to see. Meanwhile, the public's reaction continued to escalate. Online forums became battlegrounds of opinion. People debated the psychological triggers, the responsibility of content creators, and the power of virality. Memes were made, hashtags trended, and opinion pieces were written, often before the formal investigation concluded. The court of public opinion had already passed judgment, leaving law enforcement to navigate a landscape where perception often carried more weight than the law itself. Lena's family, devastated, struggled to cope with the dual tragedy of loss and public spectacle. Funeral arrangements became difficult, as the world seemed unwilling to let the story fade into privacy. Every moment, every detail, had been broadcast, dissected, and immortalized online. The grief itself was public property, shared and commented on in real time. Horace's trial would eventually hinge on evidence that never existed before the age of live streams. Psychologists were consulted to explain behavior under social pressure. Digital forensic experts analyzed the videos, revealing angles, timing, and minute details that would have been lost in any previous era. What once might have been private, invisible, and fleeting was now permanent, undeniable, and universally accessible. The moral complexity of the case weighed heavily on everyone involved. Was justice served by conviction alone, or had exposure already punished Horace beyond measure? Could a society that witnessed the act firsthand ever be impartial? And as the investigation deepened, new revelations began to emerge, secrets buried in Horace and Lena's marriage, the online pressures that had compounded over time, and the digital breadcrumbs that painted a more complicated picture than anyone had expected. The apartment was quiet now, an eerie stillness replacing the chaos that had dominated the last few days. Police tape had been removed, journalists had moved on to other viral disasters, and the digital storm had begun to settle, but the silence felt heavier than any noise. Horace sat alone in the living room, staring at the floor, hands clasped tightly in his lap. The weight of what he had done pressed down like a physical force, dragging him deeper into a pit of remorse, fear, and disbelief. The social media frenzy had passed into history, leaving behind screenshots, live stream recordings, and endless discussions that never truly faded. He could hear the echoes of thousands of viewers still typing in their heads, the judgment, the shock, the horror. It haunted him more persistently than the sirens, the flashing lights, or even the courtroom testimonies. Lena was gone, the emptiness she left behind palpable. No sound, no laughter, no teasing. Only the shadow of what once existed and a cold, suffocating realization. Love, trust, and intimacy had all been obliterated in one instant. Horace's mind replayed the final live stream over and over, each frame a cruel reminder of the public spectacle that ended her life. The image of her wide, terrified eyes haunted his dreams and his waking hours alike. He remembered her laughter, how it once carried warmth and joy, how it had now become the trigger for his spiral. It was cruelly ironic. Her attempt to entertain the world had indirectly destroyed everything between them. That laughter, once so comforting, had become the sound he would never forget. The silence that followed the act was deafening, almost as if the universe itself held its breath. Horace tried to recall the moments before the tragedy, not just the live stream, not just the teasing, but the subtle signs he had ignored. The way Lena's eyes sometimes flicked toward her phone with excitement, the way she laughed too loudly at comments, the way she floated near the line between jest and exposure. Every memory twisted into a warning he had failed to heed. He thought about the court proceedings, the digital evidence that had been dissected endlessly, and the psychological reports that detailed how secrecy, humiliation, and perceived betrayal could lead to catastrophic results. The lawyers had spoken of premeditation, impulsivity, and digital pressure. Experts debated whether exposure online was a form of public manipulation or an unavoidable trigger in the age of social media. Horace didn't care about their debates. He cared about the hollow echo of her absence. Even in the silence, he felt eyes on him, not just those in court or on screens, but the imagined thousands who had witnessed his act, who had judged him, who would never let the moment fade. Every click, every replay, every screenshot had become a permanent testament to a collapse of love and trust. The apartment itself seemed to mourn. The ring light still stood in the corner, its once cheerful glow now casting long, cold shadows. The couch where they had argued and reconciled alternately felt like a relic of intimacy and a stage of destruction. The walls, bare and silent, seemed to echo with unanswered questions. How did it get this far? Could it have been prevented? Was love ever real? Horace whispered into the emptiness, a confession to no one. I didn't mean for this. I didn't want it to end like this. His voice cracked, swallowed immediately by the suffocating quiet. Outside, the city moved on. Life carried on without pause, indifferent to the tragedy that had unfolded in a single apartment, captured live and immortalized online. Horace remained seated, trapped between the public spectacle and private devastation, caught in a limbo where neither judgment nor forgiveness could reach him. And in that silence, he finally understood the cost of secrets, of exposure, of unchecked humiliation. Love, trust, and privacy, once treasured, had been replaced by a vacuum that could never be filled. The live stream, the whispers, the viral clips, they had all left him alone, staring into a void that reflected only what he had lost. No one would forget the video. No one would forget her. And he would never forgive himself. In the end, the silence after love was louder than any scream, heavier than any punishment, and more permanent than any judgment the world could deliver. It was a quiet apocalypse of intimacy witnessed by thousands, remembered by millions, and lived forever by one.